The specifications that were put out, I think that most would agree, were misinterpreted by the networks as a way to help them control loudness. What they did was to really police the people who were obeying the laws to begin with, the professional mixers who knew what they were doing, who worked in controlled environments, who really weren't the culprits. What they were trying to do is get loudness under control. And loudness during a program, most people don't complain about the loudness during a program. They complain about the transitions or when they're changing channels. A lot of that's out of our control. But the transitions, and I still maintain this, that the mixers, the professional mixers who mix shows, half-hour shows, hour shows, whatever they may be, of any kind of length, know what they're doing and things are on control. It's the 30-second spots, commercials not so much, but local inserts and stuff that is inserted down the line. Usually, the closer to home, the worse they get, and that's the problem. And until we really do that, until we get someone putting the handcuffs on those culprits, it's still going to be a problem. It's, you know, channel surfing is going to be a problem because it just is. There are certain networks that allow large dynamics and others don't. And it's got a long way to go yet. It's got a long way to go yet, you know. So it goes back to what I was saying about knowing your project, knowing your clients, and knowing where you're delivering things. For instance, movies have a tremendous advantage over most other medium because you paid money, you're going into a room where they turn off the lights, all the seats are facing forward at this big screen with big speakers. They call that a controlled environment. Unless there's the old lady saying what they say, or crinkling paper, or the kid digging in the popcorn the whole time. It's pretty controlled. Well, now you go home, well, multitasking, everybody's multitasking. There's the TV's on in the kitchen, you're trying to watch 30 Rock, and kids playing the video game, you're texting, someone's on the phone, 40 things are going off. I think that the advent of the DVR is helping that because people say, oh, I'm going to record this when I can actually go home and listen to it. And they do it at their own time. When the phone rings, they pause. There's not this battle of, well, if the kid's going to play his video game louder, I'll make my TV show louder. Well, no, eventually, right, something gives. But absolutely, you have to know your medium and you have to know the dynamics of it. But I love mixing for HBO and for PBS because inevitably it's a closed system. There's no commercial interruptions. There's no promos. There's nobody saying, oh, I'm going to make this louder because I think people will listen to it more. No, I get to control. Once I get people, if I have an hour and a half show, I get to control their feelings, their emotion. How I get to control what loud is. I get to control what soft is. I once worked with a person who said, you know what? Don't make that any louder. I want them to work to hear that because it drew the people into a program more. I think if people understood that more, you know, there's the old axiom of louder's better, brighter's better. Crunchy's not nice either. So, but for television, yes, yeah. I mean, it's finally there's a dynamic range and there's a frequency response. Let's not forget about that. That's come along. That's certainly come a long way. You know, the issues with 5.1 and stereo compatibility are certainly still there. You know, let's face it. But it's certainly gotten a lot better. My definition of loudness. I'd like to think. Here, look, I work at a fixed level. All right, depending on what it is. Features I mix at 83. Television I mix at 76. I mix music programs at 78. All right, now that's just based on what I know sounds good here. I have the same one of these systems at home. I can hear it at home. I hear it on television. I hear it on on stereo speakers on TV. But I get to hear what my stuff sounds like. So based on experience, I have an idea what loud is. When somebody says, "Can you make that louder?" I said, "If we make it any louder, someone's going to find that remote and turn it down, and you're going to miss the next thing." There's that game. You know, I love some of the TV shows that are on the air, but they get nuts about their title music. You know, I can't find the remote fast enough when I'm laying in bed to turn down the title music. It's exciting, but not at 11 o'clock when I got a 2-year-old in the house that I don't want to wake up. So for broadcast, loudness is still an issue. It's fallen under a tent, this big loudness tent, and the word dial norm comes up, and we have center of gravity that they use on this, not here. And then the networks, here's ABC specs, here's HBO specs, some more HBO specs, and there it is. In case you don't have it, download it and read it. It's a very good piece of information. Right there. In this, it explains how they came up with how we should measure this stuff, how a meter should measure this stuff. Not how our ears do, but they're trying to get as close as possible a way that we can see and back up what it is that we hear. Incredibly difficult task, because what's loud to you may not be loud to me. But what's excessively loud to me is probably excessively loud to everybody, okay? I say loudness is sort of like salt. How's it like salt? Well, when you go to a restaurant, there's only 2 spices they put on the table, salt and pepper. Well, we all guess that the chef's going to put about the right amount of salt in, but if you want a little bit more, you can put some on. He didn't leave paprika there. He didn't leave basil there. He left salt there for you. Okay, and loudness is like salt, and that's why God invented the remote too. You know, so you can sit and make stuff louder and softer. But you shouldn't sit there like a gas pedal riding it up and down. You should be able to set channel 4 and watch channel 4. And that's what we would hope. Well, if they can't police themselves, what can we do, right? What can we do? But the way that I work is with a fixed monitoring level. I set my monitor. I know that dialogue should be about this loud. If I want some to make a point, I may raise it, I may lower it, but that's how I'm manipulating, okay? I want to make sure the words are clear. Dialogue is king. And if you can't hear the words, it's been proven. Many, many studies have done it. If people can't understand the words, they're turning off their television or they're changing channels. It was proven many years ago that if sound went off, people would change their channel. If picture went off and audio was still there, they would stay with it. It used to be many years ago, you know, please stand by, we're experiencing technical, you don't see that anymore, you just get nothing. They don't tell you, they don't care anymore. But it used to be that you'd get a little card that would say, we're experiencing, hang on, don't go anywhere. Don't get up and change the channel. You know, now we have the remote. But yeah, we have to know where we're at because of these technical specs, and your show is going to be rejected if you don't meet the technical requirements. Just if you put if you had holes in the audio, they wouldn't like that, and it's the same thing. It's a problem for the networks. So you have to play the game of being with their dynamic range. And television has to appeal to a lot of people. The way that people make money on television shows is by appealing to the broadest number of people. And you have to seek something that's reasonable. Louder is not always better. Louder is not always exciting. Louder can sometimes be self-defeating. I worked on a television show once where, and this is a picture analogy, but a person was thrown in front of a subway train. I said, well, why didn't we see this? He says, everyone's imagination of how bad that was better than anything I could show. And we did it with sound instead. We did it with sound design. With the right elements, everyone felt squeamish and, and hurt and, felt the pain of this and wanted to look away. But it worked better without picture. But it doesn't, I think there are more weapons and more tools in the audio mixer's bag than loud. And I think educating the clients to know that, unfortunately, what happens with music on television shows, especially the shows that are mixed by inexperienced people, is that they paid a lot of money for an original score. Well, they're going to make sure they hear it. and oftentimes at the expense of the dialogue of the story. And like I said, the last thing you want to do is to have the dialogue lost. And that's really what this is about. And with 5.1, restricting dialogue to the center channel can sometimes be an even bigger battle, because you can fill the speakers up with other sound where you've only got dialogue in that center channel. It's a different animal in theaters. 5.1 mixed in theaters is a completely different animal than 5.1 mixed in for television, as is for 5.1 mixed for music. And that's why I find the most difficult thing to get your hands around are things like the Metropolitan Opera or concerts, because you expect the concert to be big and lush and really dynamic and loud in the appropriate places. But then you have to, when the voice comes on, it's got to be an unequally loud, what should sound equal, but obviously a single person speaking as opposed to a 100-piece orchestra can no way can conceivably be the same level. But that's where mixing comes in, by fooling tricking the ear into thinking, oh, those are pretty close to level, or that's really loud, but I can still understand what this person's saying or what this person is singing. And that's what mixers do. And I think that anybody sitting in this chair, the mixer's chair, I always thought that the reason why you do it is because you think that you can do it better than anybody else. You've heard X show, and you say, boy, I would have done that different. I would have done it better. So I think that when you get in this chair, it's like a conductor's chair. You take control of it. You make it work. You make it work, and it's not always about loud. It's oftentimes about what came before, and experienced people know this. What came before sets up what's going to come after. It's very musical. It's very flowing. 3 big hits followed by a 4th big hit. Well, that 4th one's never going to be big enough. Just impossible. Not going to happen. You need to compose it. You need to make it work so that when you do want it loud, it really does pay off as loud. And if you looked at it on the mirror, say, wow, sounds a lot bigger than it looks. That's cool. I will say that I think it's because of the literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of programming I mixed that it wasn't anything of a reach for me. Once I learned that you need to mix at a fixed monitoring level, so that on Monday you're mixing at the same level you are next Thursday. When you are mixing an hour and a half program, 90 minutes in sounds the same. The 80th minute sounds as the same as the first minute. There's no, well, on Monday I was kind of tired, so I cranked it up. And on Tuesday I concentrated on the dialogue, so I turned it up even more. And by Thursday, I don't know where I'm listening at. And then we did the screening, and everyone thought the first half hour was too low. Well, what happened? There's no control. You need a control. And if you find that that's not loud enough, well, maybe there's something wrong in your monitoring chain. Maybe you should be approaching it differently. That ITU spec that we spoke of another minute ago, they showed that most people listen at 60. 60. Dolby recommends mixing at 83. Trailers, I think, are at 81. TV shows at 78. And people listen at 60? It puts a whole nother... Try listening to your program at 60. Try to convince your client that they should listen at 60. Good luck. But it lets you know where your audience is listening. What's going to get... People always say to me, what's going to get lost on the air? Well, something's going to get lost. Also, I think that, unfortunately, and I think this may be something that people who don't mix a lot might learn something from it. I mean, you really need to know, how much time do I have to accomplish this task? Do I need to mix an hour show in a day, in 2 days, in a week? A very wise mixer once told me, well, I set my filters based on how much time I've got. If I've got days, I give them wide dynamic range. If I've got less days, the less time I have, the more frequencies get thrown out, because they won't hear the rumble, they won't hear the crackle, and it's true with dynamic range. I might have to set my compressors and limiters a little tighter because I've got less time. because I don't have as much time to play with the dynamic range that I wish I did.